Chiggers. This guy comes out during the late spring and early summer. These guys are quite small. They obviously are red, but what happens is they go through a process, and these little guys, they don't, all they can do is walk and crawl, but they're found in tall grass and weeds and on the edge of woods. They can be found around houses. I have seen them on my back deck before, but they are located in berry patches, tall grass, weeds, edges of woods. So if you're out hiking in the woods, what you do is you just avoid places where you're rubbing up against grasses. If you're on a trail and there's a wide place where you're not really touching anything, you're good to go. Um, but these guys, all they can really do is bite you. And what they'll do is they'll bite around your ankle. And it'll look like someone has attacked your leg. There'll be a lot of red welts around your ankles and wrists and wherever they get a hold of. And it's just basically severe itching and red pimple like bumps. And the best thing to do for these guys is to wear some type of insect repellent and tuck in everything. I know in our heat, wearing long sleeve pants and clothing is can be issue. Um, you can also dust yourself with sulfur. I don't see it as much around, but there is a sulfur that you can put on yourself because these guys do not like sulfur. But that's all they can do. So this guy is not very well liked at all. This guy actually makes your skin crawl. He is out there. There are different types that are out there. These three are the most common. The black-legged tick is also known as the deer tick, and he is one that I most commonly see. And the difference between this guy and the Lone Star tick is the white dot. Um, you'll notice if you ever see these guys that you'll see this white dot. These black-legged ticks are the ones that you have to be aware of. Um, and they can be as small as the point of a pin, and then they can be bigger. And where the issue comes in is if they're allowed to stay on your body for several hours. They can transmit diseases and other nasty things, but these animals right here that you see, squirrels, raccoons, field mice, rats, and deer, carry these ticks. So if you can keep them out, so if you have bird feeders and stuff, you may be attracting ticks to your backyard. Um, I live in a neighborhood where there's grass and other things, and if you brush up against them, they have a tendency to come up on you. And my dog attracts them quite heavily. Dogs can, by the way, get Lyme's disease, so you need to remove ticks as quickly as you can. And the best thing to do is if you feel your skin crawling or feel like something's crawling up your leg, um, stop, look at your leg, take whatever is off of it, and then keep going. They all these guys do carry some kind of diseases. One of them carries Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which is not a good disease. It can make you sick. And then there's others like Lyme's disease. Lyme's disease is one very well known disease that is out there. And the best way to know that you have Lyme or that you've gotten it is basically it's a bullseye rash. However, that rash does not show up all the time. Like I've read that only 40 to 60% of the time does that. It looks like a bullseye. It looks like someone, if you've ever gone target shooting and have like a bullseye kind of thing and have a um, red circle around it, then you know what I'm talking about. But this guy will give you flu-like fever and chills and head and body aches, stiff neck, rash, any discoloration. If you have any discoloration around any type of bite, then you go seek a doctor and they can run blood tests and other things and figure out what you have. That would be my best suggestion. If you've gotten just back from the woods, what you do is you jump in a bathtub or a shower for about 15 minutes with um, as hot as you can stand at water. And that includes all your belongings. If you have a backpack or anything else, these guys can crawl on your backpacks. But um, These guys are out April, May, June, through the fall. However, um, they claim to have a tick season. That's not entirely true. I disproved that through this winter. I went through the woods during the dead of winter and still had 20 and 30 ticks crawling all over my dog. So they are out there. So, but but there's that bullseye rash that I was talking about earlier. It just looks like a bullseye. And then there's another one called starry eye, which looks very similar to it, and is not as bad, but it is out there. And then the Lone Star tick, I put this. They can release a sugar molecule to make you not like red meat, which is for those of us that like red meat, it can be a very bad situation. So yeah, so basically the best thing to do with these guys is to tuck in all your clothing, to have long sleeve clothing, light colored clothing. You can have repellent on you and all over your clothing, and it will hopefully repel the ticks. Um, Go on wide paths. Don't go crashing through the bushes. Like stay on the path, and you're less likely to get a tick. Remove them immediately and do a tick check after you get back inside. The places that these guys show up in are your ankles, like right under your sock, elastic band of your sock, and they like places where they're tight and more heat and more blood supply. Under your arms is a place that they are, but the two most common that I have are right at your waistband. So if you have your waistband where your belt is, what you do is you just look right under it. I've had a number of ticks show up there. I've also had them on the back of my, right along the hairline of my head. So, and what you do is you just take tweezers and you pull them off. Make sure that you're pulling off the entire thing, because if you leave the head, it can be infected, and it can potentially still infect you with what it has. So remove the whole entire thing. And usually, like when they're crawling on you, it's really easy to pick off. All you do is you take your hands and pull it off. So that is the name of the game with these guys. Find it quickly and get rid of it. The hardest place to check is your back. It's not as often a place, but I have had them fall on my right here behind my shirt and fall behind my neckline. So that's a place that I would check. But if you feel like your skin's crawling or something is crawling on you, look and make sure that you put eyes on it. Even if it means waking up in the middle of the night and you feel something crawling, it's better to remove it as quickly as you can. The next guy, this guy is all over. You can't avoid them. They're typically around water, and with Florida, there's no getting around water in Florida. These guys are all over. If you want it away from your house, what you do is you dump all the water. Mosquitoes are two-wing flies in the order Diptera. You don't need to know that. You just need to know that they're buzzing around. There's 3,500 species of mosquitoes out there, and what happens is the adults will feed on the sugars of plants and from insects that feed on those plant sugars. So basically they eat the leaves and they process those sugars like cellulose and other things in order to get what they need. However, the females are the ones that get their meals that same way, but also look for blood for the egg sac development. And they're usually around water. You usually, if you're away from water, like out in the desert or something, they're not going to be there. I was out west, and the only time that these guys showed up is when you're around like lakes and ponds and places that held water. They do carry diseases. We have Zika, dengue, West Nile encephalitis, malaria, Eastern equine encephalitis, and there are certain outbreaks that happen. And what will happen is basically research and keep an eye on mosquitoes and test them to see if they have these viruses. And if there's an outbreak, what you do is you just be more observant of the world around you and be careful. Um, they can give you these, and you just have to be careful. Thankfully, I've not gotten these yet. I do put on mosquito repellent, especially during the summer. Mosquitoes seem to come back out around March and then go hiding as when the temperatures get cold. So like October, November. But all these diseases can be bad, and they can have certain outbreaks. So just watch what you're doing. And when you're there, just be cautious when you're in an area where they may be, which is everywhere pretty much. The best thing to do to prevent these guys is to spray. Do like this guy is doing, and to spray insect repellent on you. Wear lighter colors. Have long sleeve clothing. And I know that it can be very hot in the summer when long sleeve clothes are worn. Dump out any standing water. If you have any plants outside, dump the extra water that's there. There are pre-emergent products that will that you can put in your water and other places in order to deter these guys. You can also, if you have a pond or other place that you have to have water, what you can do is you can make a little habitat and put in gambusia, which are mosquito fish. And then you can also add bladderworts, and they will help get rid of the mosquitoes. The other guys that you can encourage are dragonflies, which are known as mosquito hawks. But if you have these guys, they'll help control the population. So very good to have. But mosquitoes, you just basically, as soon as they land on you, swat them, kill them, get rid of them. Don't allow them to eat. We do have these guys. This is your yellow jacket, and this is bald-faced hornets. But they can live underground, or they can live in a nest above ground. This is a very disconcerting nest that was found underground. They can be very large, as you can tell. And basically what happens is vibration can bring them up from the ground. So if you have a lawnmower, they can be in the ground in a hole, and you won't know they're there until they come out and start stinging you. That's when you go find something to basically spray down their hole or put down their hole. I know it's not the best and most nice way of getting rid of these guys, but they sting, and their sting can be prolonged and painful. There are anti-sting things that you can get. So after you get stung, you can put them on, and hopefully the sting will go away. But you'll still have a red welt on you for a little while. This is another very common guy, is the paper wasp. They like to be in corners of houses. They will make this nest that'll be attached, and basically they take the cellulose and other plant material and they make it into these cylindrical shapes together. And this would be a wasp nest. These guys will go after you. They can sting multiple times. They're not like a bee, and it's not a one-hit thing. They can keep on stinging you. So these guys, you have to get rid of them. Otherwise, they will swarm you if you go out your own door, if they have a nest there. And you can knock them down. These nests are very easy to knock them down. There's less activity at nighttime. They tend to go in their nests and not be active during the nighttime. So that's when I would knock down a nest. These guys are called mud daubers. They make these mud nests, and they have what they do is they kill spiders and leave them for their baby grubs or larvae that are inside of these nests. They don't really sting. Usually they'll leave you alone. They do look very similar to a wasp. They are in the same family as wasp, but it's like 10% of the time that they actually will sting. So it's not very, very likely. However, these nests can be, I don't know, They can be an eyesore if you allow them to be, and they can take over an area if you allow them to be. But they're pretty harmless, and they do get rid of spiders and other things, so they're good to have around. The honeybee. If you want to have fruits and chocolate and lettuce and all these different things, you want to have honeybees. They have crashed in the last 5 to 10 years, and they're not 100% sure why. But our pollinators have crashed, and honeybees are not our only pollinator. All bugs can potentially pollinate our plants. We have beetles, and we have butterflies and moths and other winged insects that can pollinate, and we want our pollinators. I know that you may not like these buzzing things around you, but if you haven't noticed in the last 20 to 30 years, there has been a drastic decrease in the amount of insects that are flying around. And it's because we don't like insects, and we have lost touch with reality, and have gotten rid of our pollinators. And that's the reason why your plants and everything are having to be replaced instead of being pollinated. If they were pollinated, they would come back. But because we no longer have pollinators to pollinate, we're losing our plants right and left and having to replace the plants rather than keeping them around. So these guys, they don't want to go after you. And what's really cool is they have these little aerial acrobatics that they can basically tell where a nectar source is, and they'll tell the other people in the hive. And these guys do sting, but it's basically a suicide mission for them. It's a one-hit wonder. They'll sting you once, and that'll be the end of it because the insides will come outside. They do produce honey, which is really good, and a whole lot of other things. So make sure that you're not killing these guys no matter what. And they're also protected now. But you can get beehives and other things and encourage them, and help to pollinate the world. Otherwise, we're going to have our food prices go skyrocketing like they are now, but a lot worse. So there is an Africanized version of this guy. The African version is not in the East yet. The African version are a whole lot more aggressive. Basically, if you come across one of these, they will attack and they will not back off. They will follow you until you're not living, if they really could do that. There hasn't been a whole lot of reports of people dying from these. I think there's been a handful. But basically what you do is you beeline in one direction, and like if you're visiting Arizona and you go and you run away from the buzzing noise until they stop coming after you, which may be a mile or so down the road. Or if you want to go in a house and to close the door behind you, you can risk that, but they'll probably still come after you if there's one in your house. So just be aware that they're there. With bees, you just be observant. With all these guys, just being observant. If you hear buzzing noises, just look and see where they're coming from. You can usually tell wasp nests. They're usually these big nests that are like paper mache kind of looking things that are out there. And cologne and perfume can attract them. Be careful with mowers and weeders. They have a tendency to aggravate the situation and bring them out. Don't jump into water. Run to shelter. And make sure that when you're removing the stinger to scrape, so take a knife rather than tweezers, because there's a sac with the toxin in it, and you will release more toxin into you if you squeeze the sac. And the best thing to do with all these guys is if you notice that your throat is swelling or if your face is swelling, take Benadryl would be the first line of defense. Like if the swelling comes on very slowly, you can knock it down with Benadryl. However, if you're very allergic to it, the swelling will come on very quickly and very intensely, and things will start to shut down. Hopefully that person has an EpiPen, and they can jam it into their leg and administer the EpiPen. Um, However, if you don't have an EpiPen, you're just going to have to beeline it to the nearest medical facility and help maintain the airway and give them CPR when and not if they need it, but when they need it. Red fire ants. These are those mounds that you find in your yard. Red fire ants were imported, and they can cause havoc. They can swarm any animal that comes near them and kill them. They have killed bigger animals before. They will cause a lot of livestock to have a lot of medical issues. So the best thing to do is to get rid of them. And basically, it's to douse it with some kind of chemical. There may be organic ways out there, but they can sting multiple times. And when one is stung, then it will trigger others as well to sting you. So they are imported and not supposed to be here, and can cause a lot of damage to birds and to other wildlife. And they can take over an area, and they have these big mounds that can be seen all around. However, if you see a big mound, that's not necessarily a red fire ant. They're called red fire ant because they're red. So if you see a black ant, it's not necessarily a red fire ant. There's 50 to 100 different ant species out there, and the red fire ant just happens to be one of them. And you can see by this graphic that they came in from Mobile in 1918 and have spread from that point. And they are below the frost line. So along this line, they're below that because they don't handle cold weather. And this is what they do or can do to your arm. They make these red little blisters all over. This person got attacked by a whole lot of them. If you get into their ant pile or step in one, what you do is you remove your clothing that has it on it and just leave it alone. This is another category. Caterpillars do come out a lot of times in spring and early summer or into the summer. These guys are to go the other way. If you see these guys, leave them alone. All of them on this list can sting you. All these spines can break off and be in your skin and cause you to have severe allergic reactions and cause you to have severe burning and other sensations. It can cause nausea and other issues. So don't mess with them. If you have to the point where you can't stand it anymore, you can go to your nearest medical facility and they can help give you antivenom or some other medical treatment in order to lessen the impacts of their bites and stings that they admit. It's not necessary. It's not a bite. It's kind of you rubbed up against them and didn't realize it, or you pulled on a leaf and they were underneath it. But these guys are in and around us. So if you see any freaky looking caterpillars, leave it alone. Butterflies and moths are a big part of our outdoor area, and they are around. Most of the time, caterpillars are pretty easy and fun to watch and look at, and they develop into these butterflies, and butterflies help pollinate and to make the world go round. So don't kill them. Just leave them alone. Most of these guys, as you can tell, are pretty small. So just leave them alone, but just be aware that they can sting you. They are found all over leaves and mainly in forests, or they can be found in gardens. But a lot of them are plant specific. If you look up these different guys, they'll probably have a particular plant that they're associated with. Like the oak slug, obviously it's oak tree, but he may be on maples and ashes and other trees as well. This guy can be found in and around our houses. This is your brown recluse, and you can see here that it looks like a fiddle on his head. These guys like the dark. They don't want anything to do with us. They only bite when completely provoked and backed into a corner and have no other choice. They would rather escape and leave you alone. Imagine, if you will, to be in their shoes and imagine a giant coming up to you and messing with you. How would you react? I would probably run the other way, unless I was, I don't know, had a big ego or something, and then it's like, oh, I can take you on. But yeah, leave them alone. If it does bite you, what it'll do is your skin will slough and you'll have a black pustula-looking blister, and I would suggest going to see the doctor at that point, because the venom and toxin that it injects can eat away your tissue. I've heard people going through this, and the only way that they got rid of it is had a medical surgery kind of thing to remove the venom. So, but these guys like dark places, so holes under your sheets. But I've hardly ever come across them, so not a very big guy to worry about. Next guy, this is your black widow. It has this red hourglass on both the male and female. Males are smaller and will get eaten by the female after they mate. These guys also like the dark. They don't want to bite you, but will if they need to. They're found in holes in the ground. I have found them in stick piles before, or in like where you get logs for your fire. So just be aware that when you're reaching down for logs, that you realize what's under it. And I would also comment that say that I've also found snakes under these logs as well. Animals like to be in hidden places, especially during the day when it's hot. They'll try to find a nice, dark, cooler place to do their thing. But yes, this is about the black widow bite. Basically, it feels like a pinch or prick at first, and then you'll have delayed symptoms like cramps, nausea, and anxiety, hypertension, spasms. So basically making your life not very fun. This is when I would go to the hospital. This can cause other issues like shock and cause other parts of your body to react badly. So if you have any of these, go to the hospital, get treated, and with all of these as well, make sure that you know what you got bitten by. If you go along and you have no idea what bit you, they do have all-in-one antivenoms. But the best thing to do is to know what you got bit by. If you get bit, don't just run the opposite way. Try to figure out what it is. However, also as a precaution, get away from that area, like move out of the area for a little bit and then see what it is that you got bit by. So move away a couple of feet and then try to see what you can see. Centipedes, the millipedes, this guy, just really quickly, he can bite you. He has one leg per segment, and this is your centipede. This guy is your millipede. Millipedes can excrete a liquid that can cause irritation, but it won't hurt you. This guy will feel like a bee sting, and that's all I'll say. I haven't really seen these guys in Florida. They're there, but they're not very often seen. This is another guy. He fluoresces at nighttime. He likes to be out at nighttime. It's your bark scorpion. The venom is in its tail. They like to be in drier places around rocks and sandy soil, underneath bricks and other places. I've seen them like once or twice since I've lived in Florida for over 40 years. They are here, but they're very shy. They're more of a nighttime critter. They can be here. They do not have venom in their claws, by the way. So if you get clawed by them, it'll just feel like a pinch. But they are here. These guys, obviously, all of these guys are here. This is 4 of the 6 that we have. You have your cottonmouth. You have copperhead, You have this is a canebrake or timber rattler. Then this is a coral snake. The two that are missing are your eastern rattler and your pygmy rattler. Pygmy rattler is obviously, it's a gray snake that's not very big. It's about a foot or two long, and it has little black diamonds on it. So this is your southern copperhead. You can see the eye has the cat eye, so it has a slit down the eye, and the head is bigger than the body. It likes to shake the leaves and let you know that it's there. It likes to eat katydids and cicadas, so that you may find them around trees. The color pattern is a coppery color, which blends very well into leaf cover. So if you're out in the woods, be aware of your surroundings. I have seen them in paths, but just leave them alone. They're not aggressive. I've heard otherwise, but they're not aggressive. But they do have venom, and it's probably out of the six, it's probably the least venomous of the six. But it still will hurt, and it still can kill you if you don't seek medical attention. What's really good though with all these is a lot of them will do what's called a dry bite. They would rather save the venom for something else besides you. So, however, the guy that bit me on my foot gave me everything he had because it was just a really small guy that wasn't very big. And I spent 15 hours in the hospital, and I'm obviously alive to tell you about it. I don't recommend it. It hurts like crazy. Your tissue can be majorly discolored and swell up. But over the last 50 to 60 years, you've had maybe 20 to 30 people that have died. So just keep that in mind. Eastern cottonmouth, this guy likes to be around water. There are a lot of water snakes that can get confused with a cottonmouth. There's a northern banded water snake. There is a mud snake, and there are others that get confused with this guy. He has a whitish mouth, hence cottonmouth. He's also goes by the name of moccasin. So these guys will hang out in trees. So if you're fishing near the shore and you have an overhanging limb, don't be surprised if there's a snake in the tree. It's not always a moccasin or a cottonmouth, but it could be. These guys do have a very potent venom. And it's the same situation with all these. I mean, the venom, if you get treated, you're fine. There are not very many people that die. You're more likely to get hit by lightning than you are to get bit by one of these guys, unless you're messing with it. If you're messing with it, everything's out the window. It's your own fault if you're messing with it. And I understand completely if you want to get rid of it out of your house. These guys don't like to be in backyards. The other guys that we're mentioning like to be around houses more. But it's completely understandable. However, I want to emphasize that they get rid of mice and frogs and other things that may carry other diseases. This is your timber rattler or canebrake. It has two different names. Likes to be in rocky areas or other places, and it's more of a northern race of rattler. Then you have your eastern rattler. The colorations are different, and where it hangs out at is a little different. This guy likes more rocky stuff. This guy they can swim. This guy can swim, and he does it very well. And these guys are not extremely aggressive, but they're aggressive. They will come after you. Their heat sensing they can sense a very small, minute change of heat. And they can also pick up on vibration that are very, very tiny. And with all these snakes, they pick up on this vibration and they'll go off trail and try to keep away from you. More than likely, you'll never see them unless they let you know that they're there. So hopefully that's the case. With all these, I very rarely come into contact with them. It's very brief if I ever do. I have had, we haven't talked about it yet, but I have had to jump over a coral snake, which are pretty non-aggressive. They kind of hang out and do their own thing. But the eastern rattler, the biggest state record is something like 99 inches, which is basically about 9 feet long, and was about 34 pounds. So very big snake. So yeah, but it has potent venom. But your pit viper, which is your all your rattlesnakes and your copperhead are considered pit vipers. They are crepuscular, which means they're dawn and dusk, and nighttime they feed on mammals, birds, invertebrates, fish, and amphibians, and have hinged fangs. So basically, when they open their mouth, their fangs can come out and are come down. The venom destroys cells. And then you have the coral snake, which we haven't quite talked about quite yet, but these guys are diurnal, which means they're daytime. And these are in the same family as your cobra. So in other words, it's a neurotoxic venom that goes after your neurological system and can shut it down. That would be your heart. And it has primitive fangs, which means that they're not hinged, they're always sticking down, and they're not very big. And what he would have to do is literally gnaw on you in order to get the saliva into you. Which he can do, but I've had people come to me with a snake in their hand, go, "Hey, I found a snake," and it's a coral snake, and they don't realize it. I don't know what they've mistaken it for, but it has happened, and we kindly take that snake and get it away from them very quickly and go find it at home. This is what they normally will do. There's a whole lot of myths out there saying that, oh, why don't you cut the wound? You're going to do more harm than good if you cut the wound. If it's envenomated you, which it's gotten all the venom into you, it's already hit your bloodstream and it's already dispersing throughout your body by the time you're reacting or doing anything. Your bloodstream runs all the time and it's constantly pumping blood. So the likeliness of you getting rid of even a small part of the venom that's already in you is not very likely. And it's the same with sucking out the venom. Sucking out the venom, not only is it not smart, but just think about it. If you were to get some of that venom out of you, more than likely the person sucking out the venom, you now have two people that have venom in them instead of one. And you now have two hospital bills instead of one. So it's not a smart move. So you've just created another person that has to go to the hospital, and also a person that has to be treated. So that's not a good situation. Don't do it. Get to the hospital as quickly as you can. The other thing is tourniquets. Tourniquet is basically like it can be a rubber band, rope, or something above where the cut is to your body. Like if you get bit on the elbow or on the arm, it's above where that puncture is. However, in Florida, you don't need to do this. Just keep people calm. Do not have soda or alcohol. Just get to the hospital as quickly as you can. You won't die immediately. It's mainly your body's reaction to the venom going into you is what happens. And your body can react very weirdly in that time. Do all kinds of things that you have never had before. This is your coral snake, is this guy down below. And there's a phrase called red on black, friend of Jack, which is this guy. This is a friendly guy. This is your milk snake or scarlet king snake. And then red on yellow, kill a fellow. This guy can kill, however, it hasn't happened. I think there's been like 10 or 15 in the last 50 years that people have died from a coral snake. So not very likely. But if you see this guy, just leave them alone. They're very non-aggressive. They're one of the smallest venomous snakes out there. It's almost like a long worm kind of thing, except with the bending patterns of a snake. Another guy. This guy can be found out there. Basically, it looks like a furry ant. He's not very big, and it's called a velvet ant or a cow killer ant. There is no information out there suggesting that he can kill a cow. The venom feels like a bee sting and doesn't do very much of anything. They are not aggressive at all. I've seen them around on the ground and crossing my path, and it's like the coloration should be a warning just to leave it alone. Red and orange are kind of keys that you should leave the critter alone. And it crawls through sandy soil in yards, parks, pastures, and that type of thing. Feral pig, he is here. He came from the expedition that De Soto brought through in 1539 and was released from that point. We have a major hog problem or feral pig problem. They don't belong here. Don't mess with them. They have tusks on both sides of their mouth and can rip you up. I know a number of people that carry guns and will shoot this guy point blank if they come after him. And they can still do a number of damage before they die. They're 100 to 200 pound animal found in a variety of habitats. You can see right here that it likes oak, cabbage palm, hammocks, freshwater mouses, marshes, sloughs. I have seen them at Fort Braden trails. What they'll do is they'll rut up an area. It'll look like someone has overturned the entire ground. It's very easy to spot. No animal that I've seen can do the amount of damage that it does. It's looking for grubs and other things underneath the vegetation. It can be trapped or shot year round. If it's in your yard and considered a nuisance, you can shoot it on sight. And if anyone, most wildlife officers would understand that you're trying to get rid of it. You can also call it as self-defense. So the likeliness of you getting prosecuted for this, you may or may not get a small fine by doing it without a permit. They are around. They're highly aggressive. Don't mess with them. However, their meat does taste pretty good. Bacon does make a very nice meal, and same with ham. Feral pig, it's very similar to your other pigs, but they're a little bit more tougher. The largest cat that we have in the U.S. is the Florida panther. They can stroll through the area. They can be here. It's a 100 to 150 pound cat that needs a lot of space. So think of 200 to 300 acres, which is a very big area, in order to socialize, in order to be reproductive, and get enough food for it to live. It likes dense understory. It doesn't mind swamps or marshes. This is a great place for a panther to be. If you're in the Apalachicola Forest or in Tate's Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if there was panthers living there. I've heard a number of people having pictures and videos of them when they've gone into the woods. Just be aware of your surroundings. If you come across one, leave it alone. They have a lot of things to eat here. They're not really to be feared. They're an ambush predator, so if you ever come across one, stand your ground, do not run, talk to it, don't turn your back on it, and usually it will go away. If it tries to come after, start walking towards you, that's when you start being very aggressive, throwing things at it. Don't look at it in the eye, and stand your ground. But the biggest population is the Everglades. The Caloosahatchee River is right where Lake Okeechobee is, down south, so near Naples and that area. Think Fort Myers, and most of the panthers have not come past that point. However, they have in the last little while suggested that they've made way into Charlotte Harbor and to other places. These guys are reclusive and rarely seen. They like to be around dawn and dusk and nighttime. They have very good eyesight. They are very strong and muscular. They can take a full-grown deer and jump 20 to 30 feet up to a tree very quickly. So yeah, and they're very cool. This is a Florida panther. They are a state mammal. They are here. Just watch your back. If you feel like something's up and your hair starts tingling and whatever, look behind you and see if someone's not watching you. If that's the case, make it known that you see him, and don't act like a an animal that will be prey or lunch for them. Fight back. And if it ever bites you, it will try to go for your neck. Um, Hit it in the groin, hit it in its eyes, hit it in the sensitive spots if it ever decides to go after you, which is very, 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 very rare. The other guy that also you treat the exact same way, you talk to it, you fight back, is the Florida black bear. They have historically they were all over the southeast, as you can read, South Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and most of Florida. They like the forests. They have a heavy population in Tate's Hell, which is part of the Apalachicola, that goes from almost to I-10 and all the way to the coast. So very big area, and there are a whole lot of bears. We have seen them down at the coast, or seen evidence of them. They are one of the largest terrestrial mammals besides Payne's Prairie, which is down near Gainesville, which has a bison herd or buffalo herd. The average poundage of a bear is 300 pounds, but the historical record was 700 pounds, which is pretty big. If you're in a bear area, what you do is you put it in a bear-proof canister, uh, and take care of the things that smell. They're very scent oriented. They can smell things up to 2 and 3 miles away. Um, and please put things in a safe place that smell. So deodorant, liquids, food, um, anything that can smell, and it includes toilet paper. If it can smell it, and if you can smell it, then that's why you have non-scented items when you go camping. It helps alleviate that situation. Another thing you can do is have a bear bag, which is basically a bag and you throw it in the woods with a rope attached to it, and you put it high up. Bears, when they get on their legs, can reach about 8 to 10 feet tall. So just be aware that, yeah. And they use all kinds of vocalizations, body language, and scent marking. They're shy and reclusive. They pretty much stay alone unless it's breeding season, and then a mama will have little baby ones for a little while, and they'll stay with her for quite a few months and then be kicked out. They're non-territorial. They have great eyesight, acute hearing, but their sense of smell is the best of pretty much any land animal. And what's interesting is people don't realize their diet is mainly plants, and insects and animal matter. If you see the evidence of them are basically, you can see claw marks on a tree. Like if you see this long claw mark on a tree, it's most definitely a bear. They have scratching posts that they like to scratch. They also, what they'll do is, just like you and I, they'll have a scratch on their back, and what they'll do is kind of dance on the tree, if you will, and scratch their back, and so they'll kind of dance. And um, 230 bears are killed by cars each year, and then FWC, or Fish and Wildlife, has to kill 279 bears. Um, Bears are attracted to our food, so any type of food, garbage, bird feeders, they can get into to bad situations. And because their areas are getting destroyed and their area is getting closer and closer to us, or encroaching on our area, so more than likely you'll see more bears. When they get used to us is when they cause trouble. Um, Out west, it was 2 strikes and you're out. Here, I'm not sure, but there are bear-wise protocols that you got to follow. Namely, put bear stuff in the right area. Use bear bags. Put it in your house. Lock it up. And I didn't realize this until reading about bear issues, but your car is not a safe place. Um, a bear can swat with his hand and break into your car immediately, and then rip the car to shreds. If you look up bear encounters, I'm sure you'll see a number of them where the bear has ripped the insides apart of a car in order to get to the edibles in your car. So a car is not a good place. If you have food and you have the choice to take it with you or put it in a bear bag, put it in the bear bag and take it with you. Do not leave it in your car. Your car may have a very big high price tag when you come back and not be drivable. It may be ripped to shreds. So word of warning, but this is your bear. He wants nothing to do with you. They're pretty cool, but you stand your ground. Um, and usually they'll back away. They do sometimes do what's called a bluff charge just to see, I guess, how manly you are or whatever. Not really, but he'll charge you and see if you will stand your ground, and that's when you don't move. If he really and he'll come forward and then he'll stop. And if he keeps coming after you and keeps coming near to you, um, you can roll into a ball and protect your private areas. Have your backpack facing them. Do not expose your undersides. So just get up in a ball. But this doesn't really happen. They don't want to go after a human. That's kind of not their motive. So don't look at it in the eyes. Keeps kids close. But bears are pretty cool, and they are definitely in our woods. Just a mention, these are 4 critters that are near our coast. We do live in a county that does have these down near the ocean. This is your tiger sharks. This is one of, I don't know how many shark species we have. I think it's like 15 or 20, maybe even more. But they are definitely in our waters, and you just have to watch where you go swimming. If you see a fin coming out of water and it kind of keeps going, you may have a shark, and I would get the heck out of the water as quickly as you can and find shelter. This is your stingray. What you do is, if you're in the water, what you do is you drag your feet. You don't pick up your feet and put them back down, because what may happen is when you put it back down, there is a spine located in the tail right here, and that spine will go in your foot. That spine has venom in it, and it can paralyze your foot, which I've had a number of people, and it will lock it up. It is also not fun to basically have a knife blade kind of apparatus going into your foot. That is their big thing. We do have electric skates, which do send off a electrical charge. And if you ever feel like electrical charge and you're near one of these, you'll know it. So these guys, I've dealt with them my whole life. I haven't had that that tail barb go into me, but just be aware. Catfish, in all of these fins, in the top, in this dorsal one, and in these side ones, they do have this spine that has a toxin in it, and it can make your hand tingle. And just be aware that try not to get punctured by these. It just feels very weird. And they can carry bacteria and other things on these appendages. So just be aware when you're catfishing that those things can occur. You can just use gloves or a towel or something, and it'll protect you. And then this guy, this is a Portuguese man-o-war. It's one of many jellyfish. If you see this guy, stay away from it. The tentacles are underneath it and are what caused the trouble. This guy is pretty toxic. It's one that you don't want to mess with. It'll make for a very bad time. These things are very toxic. People have died in the past from them when they got wrapped up in these things, but normally it just makes for a very bad time, and this thing lasts for quite a while. So I recommend not getting stung by them. Alrighty, so that wraps up our talk on dangerous critters. Thank you for joining me. I know there was a lot to learn. If you want to know anything more about these guys, just look them up for yourself. These are all out there, and I want to comment saying anything with a mouth can potentially hurt you and can bite you, but these are the ones that are the most likely. Characters that have toxin or venom in them and can potentially hurt you if you allow it to. Um, but just be observant when you're outdoors. Just keep an eye on the woods. Woods are a fun place. I very rarely come into contact with any of these guys. Usually it's just a fun time where I'm in solitude and peacefulness and just enjoying my surroundings and the creeks and hearing birds and other critters out there and frogs. And so don't be scared to go outdoors. This is just to make you aware of what's out there and what potentially can hurt you. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you. We'll have a dangerous plants presentation and on the Google site as well. Thanks. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you down the road.